Alright, welcome aboard guys. Here we are, video 4 in our series of how to put steel beams up under a house. And this is our next step on this beam. We've drilled the holes with a magnetic drill, because that was the fastest way to do it. Rather than pushing around with the battery one, not that I haven't done it before. And touching a nailing plate. This is a nailing plate, it's a piece of MPG 10 structural timber. We're using pine, or happy to use pine in this case because we're under the house and all that's been built in, so it's never going to see weather again. So I don't need to worry about it. If I was doing it outdoors, I'd be using a good hardwood and painting it with 2 coats of enamel before it went on. Especially where these recesses are to take the heads of the bolts, because we don't want to be in the way of the floor joists that are up there. Or any floor joists that are going on later. On that end, I've come in, I'll show you. We've got Frankie just tightening those bolts up. I'll show you how we did that in a minute. We've kept that in away from the end because we've got to weld that end onto a steel post that's over there. And Frank's got to get in there with the MIG, so a little bit of room to do that. Not too much, because there may be a joist right on the edge, so we still catch a joist. Because it's 50mm, that's only 30. Okay, so it still catches. And then we come over here to this end. And we're going to get the circular saw, Frank. Now we get another piece of timber. And what we're going to do is put this timber up here. Now we usually come, when I do this, I usually come 100 to 150 off the end with the first bolt, depending on what I'm doing. Like that one, it's 100mm off the end. There's no welding out there because the first post is 400 in. We're going over there, we've got that extension we've got to deal with. Bare steel's going out there and then welding onto that post. So we're not anywhere near the end, it's going underneath. So that's where our first hole is. Go get the circular saw, Frank. And joining here in the middle is quite safe because we've got a bolt there and a bolt there. They're close enough for that, which is going to be good. And now what we do is we get the marking pen or a piece of crayon. Well, you prefer the crayon rather than the marking pen because crayon doesn't dry out. So we get the marking pen. Now we go through, make sure that we're flush on the outside here, so we can then put the crayon, the marking pen underneath, in this case the marker, and mark a hole where all the holes are. So we've got to feel our way, mark a hole there, mark there, and the one at the end, mark there, line across to the end for the saw, come 10mm or 5mm inside that, Frank. He's cutting the end of the timber. Put the marker away. Can I have the drill, Frank? Oh, it's over there. Here, you take care of that. You take this thing. Yep. Hello. I'm here. Alright, now what we'll do is drill this. Drill. Now, as you saw yesterday, I need those. As you saw yesterday, I sharpened the drills. Okay, I sharpened, you didn't see me actually do it, but I sharpened this drill bit yesterday after I did that video. And if you can see that, she is extremely sharp. This is the one I went through that steel column with in seconds. Okay, she's still sharp. It doesn't blunt real easy until you do something nasty. And because it's so sharp, as I said, with timber fibres, this thing grabs. It is bad news. So if you haven't got a strong wrist or you haven't got it braced against yourself, get ready for this thing to take off, okay? Let's go. The timber's going to grab it, you watch. All right. It just sucks it through. See that? It just sucked it straight through. It didn't go in straight, so now I'm going to straighten it. that drill is so sharp at the front and so shaped back that that leading edge is, it's like diving into water. Goes all the way to the end of the drill. You can't even hold on to it. So watch out for it. That's why I got it braced off against my gut there. So when it takes off and wants to bite, it doesn't take my wrist and break it. You gotta watch out for that when she bites. Yeah, he's like that. Even worse when there's a timber knot involved. I've had the drills when I sharpened them. I had, for example, I had a job I had to do just a couple of k's away. This is a while back. We used the big Makita 750 watt electric drill, and I had a 1 inch drill bit on it because I had to put a 1 1/4 inch drill bit. We had 1 inch bolts that the engineer wanted, and I had to go through and drill 32 holes. Okay, and of course I sharpened it so I could do it in one. Like most people do it in 2 or 3 drills. They just keep on expanding. Start with a small one, get bigger and bigger and bigger, which is a pain. It takes a long time. Where I sharpened the drill bit so I could do it all in one. So the 1 1/4 inch drill bit was done so I could drill through one hit and drill through both sides of the column. The problem was, of course, with the 750, you're holding on to it, and it then bites on the steel, and it came across, which it does. It just whips around, bang, straight onto my hand, and broke one of the bones in my hand. And that was on the very first hole. I still had 31 more holes to do that day. I did them, but I already had a broken bone in my hand that day from it biting and whack. You really have to be careful because it does hurt. It can break your wrist. It can break a piece in your hand if it hits it hard enough. You have to be careful. Okay, on to the next step. These are all warnings. Don't think I'm just rambling on. I'm trying to warn you because this is the same thing I teach my staff when I've got staff. How to do this stuff. I teach them all the problems that come about so they hopefully don't hurt themselves. There's nothing worse than getting hurt doing the job. Okay, people think I'm not very health and safety with not using goggles or gloves when I'm grinding. I've talked to many people, and many people who've used goggles when they're grinding usually get dirt in their eye because the sparks, the carborundum and the steel sparks fly up, hit your cheek, bounce off, hit the glass, bounce off again and hit the eye. Go straight in your eye. I've found it over 30 years to be better without glasses. As long as your face is out of the way of the blade. That's why I always do a cut above here or down here, never here without safety protection. Okay, and with safety protection you want a mask. A full mask, not just goggles, because that stuff gotta hit you. It's like stepping in front of a bus. Don't do it unless you're well protected, I tell you. All right. Now we've sharpened the chisels. These are actually a excellent chisel. I don't know if you guys used to use all those silly plastic handle things. I found a year ago, 2 years ago, these ones, they got hard on them. They're solid steel. I wish I found these earlier. I could have used these 40 years ago. They're fantastic. They're all solid. There's no joint. You don't have a piece at the front with a little handle and a plastic or timber handle at the end, which is great if all you're doing is a little bit of light woodwork. But when you really want to hit something, you want something that's solid steel. So we get this chiseled out. Do remember, if you're doing this for external, if you want this to go outside, you don't want it to rot, then you want to paint it with 2 coats of enamel, not acrylic. Acrylic is shit. Okay? Don't tell anybody that. Unless it's got something in it to stop water from getting through it, acrylic just doesn't work on timber. Acrylic is porous. It lets water in, doesn't let water out. So if you want wood rot, put acrylic on your timber. If you want to stop wood rot, use oil-based paints. Okay? Only oil-based stops water. If it's made out of water, it's not going to stop water real well. Acrylic is water-based. Enamel is oil-based. To stop water, oil is the best. Okay. And of course, these are all my thoughts on the subject. I've done 32 different trades in my life, all done professionally. I've been a painter for many years. I've painted many, many, many houses, and I can tell you right now, I know which paint lasts and which one doesn't. Okay? And unless the acrylic has oil in it, it doesn't last. Not on timber. Okay, let's go that bit now. Next bit. Yeah. Okay, I bought these this morning. Okay, I always use gal bolts. In the industry here in Australia, everything's galvanised nowadays. We all recommend gal. So we used to use all zinc plated, but then the engineers started doing gal, and there's still guys out there using zinc plated today because it's cheaper. Okay, yes, it is a little bit cheaper, but it has its own problems. And once it goes outside, if you want to get an engineer to pass it, it's got to be galvanised. And I don't like galvanised personally, because I know galvanised doesn't last long either. Okay, get all those set in, and then of course you got to tighten them all up. So you got to put the nuts on the end, tighten them all up, and this one's ready to go. So I hope this helped. I hope this helped you understand the process as we go through this. Like, this is video number 4. This is a process from the beginning, as I said, with the cleaning of the bearers, which we'll do again in a little while, as we place the steel beams up, to sharpening your drill bits, using your grinders, how to use a grinder properly. We'll show you again how to use a grinder properly. If you wish to wear safety equipment, that is up to you. Okay. It's not that I don't wish to use safety equipment, it's that I find that most safety equipment actually gets in the way. I can tell you now, if you're wearing gloves with a 5-inch grinder, or especially with a 9-inch grinder, I don't know any glove today that can withstand a grinder going through it. So, yeah, I don't see a point of putting a glove on that doesn't do any real protection except to keep your hands clean. Okay, that's the only reason you use a glove, is keep your hands clean. If you're afraid of a bit of dust from the grinder blade, okay, use a glove. But I can tell you right now, that blade will go through your hand just as fast whether you're wearing a glove or not. It'll just go through. It's all up to you what your skill level is on how you use a grinder. So this is our beam. We won't waffle on too much on that. We'll show you that in a little while. This is our beam. This one's done. I just got to tighten these up, and then this one's going to be put over there, and we'll show you how we do that. We actually have, I don't know if you can see it from here, that's our duct lifter. We'll show you more about that in a minute as we do a video just on the duct lifter. Okay, thanks guys. Don't forget, subscribe, like, beauty.